important as Wayne Rooney in our football team. I'm only having a laugh. It's very important, and it's about the royal family. Now, the latest report about what the royal family costs us shows that it only costs £38.2 million a year to have a royal family. That is fantastic value for money. Utterly fantastic. When you think that the Whitehall departments themselves spend, believe it or not, something like £1 billion a year, more. I read 1.7 billion. I'm not talking million, I'm talking billion a year for so-called advisors. I thought that when a government minister became a government minister, he was supposed to use his own knowledge and wit and wisdom.
Don't forget they've got a load of civil servants behind them as well.
Unbelievable. For so-called advisors to go into Whitehall and advise on this, advise on that. People made themselves tens of millions of pounds out of advising the government. Then nobody advises the royals. They have to get on with themselves through their historical presence in this country, and they do it. Now, that works out to 62 pence per person per year for the fantastic institution which is the royal family, for the fantastic worldwide publicity they give us, for the fantastic sense of well-being we have in this country, because a royal family is, of course, apolitical, so it means that governments come and go, but our royal family's there forever.
Apolitical.
The tradition... I'm sorry?
Apolitical.
Apolitical, that's what I said. Apolitical.
Right.
Apolitical, yes. Okay? And that means they're there forever, and that means that we can have a sense of being about our country being complete and wholesome and one. Whatever happens, governments fracture, governments split, people split, into political divisions, but one thing we have got is the royal family. And I've been reading a piece recently saying if we were able to go and give royal families to countries which are divided on tribal issues, like Afghanistan, like Iraq, like Iran, they would be greater countries. That's what a royal family can do for you. We're so lucky to have the oldest royal family in the world, okay?
Well, it's all very well for you to say that,
Yeah.
which is fine if you live in the past. If you want to live like in, the 19th century or the 18th century,
No, you're not living in the
and you
past.
want to have a group of people in society who are viewed upon by the masses as somehow better than them, as somehow more deserving of them, of somehow more educated, more intelligent, to have some kind of divine right to rule. That's all fine. No. And I've got nothing against the Queen, I have to tell you, before I say anything else.
Yes.
I think Queen Elizabeth II has been the most fantastic monarch we've ever had.
Yeah.
Forget about what you said before
Certainly
about Henry VIII.
Henry VIII,
He used to go around knocking off his wives and chopping their heads off. It's something to be proud of.
No, but he knew exactly who was in charge.
I think when the Queen decides to abdicate, or if anything happens to her health and she's no longer able to rule as the Queen, I think we in this country should take the opportunity to say, we don't need this monarchy anymore. We need a forward-looking society. We need an organised situation here where we don't need to sort of take the forelock or bow to people. I think it's outmoded. It's ridiculously old-fashioned, and it makes us look like a laughing stock of the world. And I don't believe this cobblers that you come out with that if it wasn't for the Queen and the royal family, the tourists wouldn't come here.
Well, I'm sorry, you're looking at it from a very perverse point of view.
Not at all.
I think we should skip a generation from the Queen to Prince William. I think Prince Charles now should give up ambitions of being the monarch.
Well, what is the point of Prince Charles?
Can I just finish? And that then will refresh the idea of monarchy. We'll have this young man, William, with his young bride and his young family and his young brother, and we will suddenly become a great world power again in the eyes of the rest of the world, because we have something they don't. And what we have is an established form of settlement, which means our country is so stable, and stability gives confidence to everybody in the world.
What you have is a prematurely balding young man who's never had to work a hard day in his life, who's going to be handed the ownership of an entire nation on a plate, on a silver plate. In fact, the only time he takes a silver spoon out of his mouth is to swig champagne down at one of those clubs in Chelsea.
You've got to look at the facts. The Queen did over 400 public engagements last year. That's more than one a day.
I'm not criticising the Queen.
That is a fantastic work rate.
I'm not criticising
Before we go any further, I want to invite our listeners on this one, because I think you're talking absolute tosh. In fact, I think the rubbish you spout on this one needs taking apart by more intelligent people than you, and that's our listeners. Give us a call, please, 08717 223344, or text us on 81089, or email us via the website on Talksport.net. Not everybody agrees with me, so we're going to go to a guest now, a chap called Graham Smith, who is the Republican spokesman for the anti-monarchy group. Good morning, Graham.
Good morning, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well indeed, thank you. Good to have you on. Now, Graham, you've heard what I've just said about the royal family. I think they're a magnificent institution. They cost us hardly anything to maintain. They're self-financing in many ways, because they bring millions of people to this country as tourists. So how can you possibly be against them?
Oh, for all sorts of reasons. Firstly, what you've said is, I listened to most of it, and I couldn't pinpoint one thing which she said which is correct or accurate, or which I agree with. I mean, for the start, I mean, £38 million is a fraction of what they actually cost, which is more like anything between 100 and 200 million pounds a year.
Well, hang on, where do you get your figures from? Where are you getting your figures from?
There's a whole load of things that they're not including, like taxes they don't pay, like revenue from the duchies, which ought to be going to the Treasury, like security costs, which are estimated to be anything from 50 million to 200 to 100 million a year.
Yeah.
To cost to councils when they go around the country on these tours and trips and so on and so forth. So
and what about the revenues they bring in? What about the massive revenues they bring in?
There isn't any. This is the point.
Yes, there are.
No, there isn't, and this is the point. There is not one shred of evidence anywhere, not one bit of research that shows that tourists come here because we have an unelected head of state. Now, obviously some people come here because they want to see the history and the castles and the palaces. All that will still be there if we didn't have an unelected head of state. Even Visit Britain, the organisation that promotes us as a tourist industry, as a tourist destination, has done the research. They've asked people why they come here, and they do not come here because we have a monarchy. There's not one bit of evidence that supports that. And in fact, the evidence shows that they go to other places in larger numbers than they go to Buckingham Palace. So, but I mean,
they go to Windsor Castle, for instance. Windsor Castle.
They go to Tower of London, which is a far more popular destination, where
and
the royals haven't lived for a very long time.
Wouldn't be there without a royal family, of course.
Well, I'm not arguing that we do a Doctor Who magic trick and go back in time and pretend it never existed. It's been in our history. It will always be part of our history. What I'm saying is that we need to make history by getting rid of it and having a democratic, modern, accountable institution. And this is the point: is that the tourism is really irrelevant. Even if it's brought in money, it's no argument for keeping something which is deeply undemocratic and is part of our constitution. I mean, you were complaining earlier about the politicians spending money and not getting loads of advisors. Our politicians benefit enormously from having a monarchy, which is why they tend to defend it. They get enormous amounts of power from that. The government ministers go down to Buckingham Palace almost on a weekly basis to use the Queen's powers through the Privy Council to make all sorts of decisions.
That's our constitution.
Graham, you say
Parliament.
Graham, you say you want to replace it with some other form of institution. What sort of institution would you replace it with?
Well, I mean, you have a written Republican constitution which basically says the people are in charge and we delegate power to the politicians, and then the head of state would be someone who's directly elected, as you have in the Republic of Ireland, has a similar role, doesn't get involved in the day-to-day politics.
So, like a president or something like that?
Absolutely, yeah. Someone who's elected by the people, from the people, and who will do a very similar job, but has certain reserve powers that she can use to step in if the politicians...
Graham, if we had a referendum tomorrow, do you agree overwhelmingly the people of this country would vote to retain the monarchy?
Well, I think it would be very unfair to have one tomorrow, but if you had one in several months' time after having a proper, full and frank debate about it, where both sides are properly resourced to promote the different arguments, then I think that you would see public opinion shifting quite
that's
strongly.
rubbish.
Now, hold on a second. I'm not saying that we would necessarily win, but you would see the public opinion shifting very strongly, because it is not that strong. I mean, it is 80% roughly, but that's because most people have never given it any serious thought.
Well, they don't have to, because they're there, and they're beneficial. Why do countries like Spain bring their monarchies back? When they get, why do countries like Spain, when they get rid of dictatorship, bring their monarchies back?
That's historically incorrect. Franco, the dictator of Spain, brought the Spanish monarchy back. Franco did that. Now,
that's funny. I don't remember them going back until Franco died.
Well, that's not correct. Franco put him back on the throne. So,
in a puppet fashion, he tried to, but the actual King Juan Carlos went back only after Franco died. They restored the monarchy.
Franco restored the monarchy. That is an historical fact. So, get the history right. Okay. Now, the point is that no other country has brought them back. I mean, the whole of Eastern Europe became democratic 15 years ago. Not one of them has brought any of their old monarchs back. In fact,
that's because they've got no monarchy left.
Well, that's not true. They've got royal families left, and the King of Bulgaria went back to Bulgaria. And some Bulgarians, not many, but some said, well, we want the king back. And the king himself said, no, monarchy is outdated, it's old-fashioned, I'm going to stand and be elected.
Well, anyway,
what he did and became
Graham,
leader.
We've got to move on, but thank you very much indeed for your contribution to the show, and thank you very much for outlining what he says of the facts.
I thought the King of Bulgaria was one of the Wombles, wasn't he?
Well, I mean, that's a little harsh, but I mean, let's face it, you can't talk about Britain and Bulgaria in the same breath. Right, the argument is this. I say pay £1 a week for the monarchy. I say skip past Prince Charles, restore King William. We will be the greatest country in the world with an institution like that to seal our democracy. Give us a call. Like is this the new plan for the future of the monarchy after seeing the figures and realising how much value for money we get out of the Queen and the family, the royal family, is this. £1 a week should be... anybody should be prepared to pay £1 a week, every adult citizen in this country, to fund the monarchy if it's necessary. But it's not even necessary, £1 a week. 62p a year.
Yeah.
Now, a chap we just had on from Republican Group, Graham Smith, said, oh, well, there's hidden costs and all that. OK, well, we'll cover the hidden costs then with the £1 a week that I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
£1 a week's too much money. I mean, why would you want to pay £1 a week? That's £52 a year. That's quite a lot of money for some people, you know. I know it may not be much for everybody.
Man.
No, but it's still quite a lot of money over the course of a lifetime. It's hundreds and hundreds of pounds over the course of your lifetime. And the point is this: why should we be subsidising what is
We're not
outmoded? Well, I'm sorry.
In my view,
if you're paying £1 a week, you are subsidising an outmoded lifestyle for some overprivileged people who don't really deserve to be there. The Queen is great, but after she's gone, I don't think we should keep this thing going at all. I don't believe anybody actually thinks that we should keep it going, because Charles is a waste of space. And I don't know what qualifies Prince William. You say, you know, he's going to be the great representative of this country. How is he a fantastic young man?
Because
what's he ever done in his life?
Because he's a bright, you know,
he hasn't done anything in his life.
Good-looking young man
well,
who can go...
there's lots of bright, breezy, good-looking young men, but they're not going to be offered the chance to be the king of England, are they?
Honestly, Mike, sometimes you just sound like Mr. Angry, you know, when you can't get your head around a subject. I've already said we skip a generation, we go straight to Prince William. Let me ask you this. Do you think that the presence of Prince William's mother, Diana, Princess of Wales, was good or bad for this country?
Do I think it was good or bad?
Yeah.
Of course it was good.
Thank you very much indeed. That's answered the question. Let's go to the lines, please, and talk to somebody who wants to debate this. Excuse me. Let's go and talk to Paul, who's a Liverpool fan on the M25. Hiya, Paul.
Hi, how you doing, guys?
Yes.
Great show.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Yeah, go on.
Right. Personally speaking, for me, I would rather pay £3 a week, and I would give £1 each to the fire brigade, the schools, and the hospitals.
Well, you already do that. You already do that in your massive taxes that we pay in this country at 50%.
Yeah. I'd still rather do that than give £1 a week to the Queen and that lot.
Why? What's the problem with her?
Well, she don't do nothing for me, mate.
Oh, well, she might not do nothing for you, but she does a load for the country. At the moment, she's in Canada, right? So Canada turn out the whole of the regalia of what used to be a former colony, which is now a self-established and rather efficient country, to pay homage to the Queen.
Without a royal family, you should add, right?
No, they have a royal family. It's called the Queen. She is their royal family.
They don't have their own royal family.
They have our royal family because they're still a member of the Commonwealth.
Yeah, but they don't want our royal family.
They certainly do. Why would they turn out all the regalia to greet her for the
politicians? I'm talking about the people.
Fourth time in her reign. Paul, I mean, all you said so far is everything rather negative and bland. Can't you see the value of having a royal family?
No, I can't, mate, to be honest with you.
Okay, well, I feel a bit sorry for you.
Like Mike said, Buckingham Palace will still be there, and people will still go to see Buckingham Palace and say, oh, that's where the Queen used to be. What's the difference?
The difference is this. Why would you change the guard at Buckingham Palace if there's nobody inside it to guard? And do you realise that the changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace is the most visited ceremonial procedure in this country, day in, day out, for 9 months of the year? So that's the answer to that one. Paul, thank you very much indeed. Right, let's get
let's get back to this idea of you wishing to subsidise the royal family to an even larger extent than we already do.
We don't subsidise
These people are very wealthy. The Queen has got a massive personal wealth. I mean, whenever they do that Sunday Times rich list, she always appears as, I think, the richest woman in Britain, right?
But she works.
She has an awful lot of personal wealth.
But
now, she wants to be the Queen of England, and I think she does a great job, by the way.
Yeah.
The royal family have no business then coming back to us and saying, oh, we need more money from the public. £1 a week is too much money.
Yeah.
Any kind of amount of money per week is too much money.
The Queen works. She does a fantastic job. She brings in millions of visitors a year as head of the royal family. What you're saying is this. You're saying, oh, actually, Paul McCartney's very wealthy, so when we go to his concert at the O2, why should we have to pay to go and see him?
Yeah, we
don't.
don't.
Because he's working, and the Queen is working.
Hang on a second.
When she does ceremonial
duty. You defeat your own argument. We don't pay Paul McCartney to exist, do we?
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Of course we do. We buy his records and we go to his concerts.
He gives you something in return for that.
She gives us something in return.
She doesn't give us anything.
She gives us a massive ceremonial duty. She gives us a massive ceremonial institution called the Royal Family. Give us a call, please. 08717 223344, or text us on 81089, or email us via the website at Talksport.net. Right, let's get straight back to the calls, because I want to speak to somebody who is thinking my way so that my argument can be bolstered on this show. Let's talk to Sam, who's an Arsenal fan in Highbury. Hi, Sam.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, Andy.
Hi, Sam.
Great programme.
Thank you. Go on.
Well, you've got to remember that the Queen was born into this money, and you can't help where you're born. I wasn't born a rich man myself. I just come from working class parents.
None of us were. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, and I was born 1952, so I've never known anything else.
Right.
But in the late 70s, early 80s, I done coach driving. The coach industry heavily depends on the royal family, the changing of the guard,
going to the
Yeah.
Tower of London
Sure.
and touring around London and seeing the sights of London.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You'd be surprised the Americans that love the royal family.
They do.
And also, surprisingly again, so do the Germans.
That's
They
right.
absolutely adore them.
Well, they are German,
So I
aren't
just
they?
had a thought the other day about this,
Yeah.
about why don't we make the royal family the head of Europe instead of just of England?
Well, I tell you, that's not such a crazy point, Sam, because I was reading some constitutional direction just a couple of days ago in preparation.
What were
of
you
this,
reading?
And some constitutional direction, and what
was that like? Was that like a map reading or something?
If you just ease
What
off
is
for a moment and let me
constitutional
tell you,
direction?
it's constitutional direction. What I'm saying is that the view around the world is that if more countries had a monarchy, it would bind their communities together in the same way that we're bound together in this country by having a head of state who is a queen. And so
right.
you're absolutely right there, Sam, that it's a tremendous benefit. The German sees that benefit. I mean, most other countries in Europe would love a royal family. And the other thing is,
The
Sam...
French wouldn't.
Hang on, Sam,
They had a revolution.
Sam, you say that it supports the coach industry. What about supporting all of the other industries, like the publishing industry, Mike, which you've been in all your life? The publishing industry largely depends on the royal family to publish glossy magazines, to publish newspaper
Well,
pictures.
it may have been the case in the past.
Sam, thank you very much indeed, mate, for your
Princess
contribution.
Diana was the
That's,
last.
that's Sam
Princess
from-
Diana was the
I
last
agree.
member of the royal family who you will remember.
Yeah.
Who's if you put her face on the front page of any newspaper, the newspaper would actually sell
Rubbish.
more copies. If you put
So you
Prince
think
William,
William and his
William
girlfriend?
sells no newspapers whatsoever. He's an anachronism. He's out of date.
That's rubbish.
He's not in touch. Let me read you this from
go on.
Dr. P.I. Who says, Mr. Parry, I'm a little concerned about your current state of mental health, and in my opinion, I believe you to be suffering from some sort of psychotic episode with outbursts of delusional ideas of grandeur. I recommend at least a month in a secure unit with padded walls and to wear a full straitjacket, as I feel you are a danger to not only yourself, but members of the public. So that's one. Daniel in
Which
West
I've
Houghton
dismissed because
says,
it was offensive.
as per usual, Mr. Parry, you are talking rubbish. We need to do away with the royal family as they aren't really useful in this modern age. This is the bit that you don't get about my argument. I understand that the Queen does a great job, but she is the last of that family that should be employed by this country. Let's face it, that's what they are, right? I do not wish to employ Prince Charles. Under your constitutional direction, you make out perhaps that Prince Charles would be better off going off to be the head of state, the king of Afghanistan. You think that would sort that problem out?
I do. If you've got a troubled country like Afghanistan, Iraq, or Iran, you could send Prince Charles over to become their head of state on a United Nations directive.
On a
obviously.
rolling basis?
Yeah, on a rolling basis to say, see if I can help, see if I can bring you together, that sort of
You've
stuff.
gone mad?
And no, I'm not mad at all. In fact,
gone
no,
completely
I'm not. I
barking
just
there.
think a bit more broadly than other people do. Right, email here. Well said, Chubby. I think that's a sort of backhanded compliment to me. Comes from a guy called Dave in Bromley. Well said, Chubby. I totally agree with you, Mike. The royal family are fantastic. We blow billions every year on a massively bloated welfare state and other stupid things. Long live the Queen and bring on King William, says Dave in Bromley. Dave, thank you very much
But surely
indeed.
the point is now that we have an opportunity when the Queen either abdicates or ceases to be the Queen, the best thing that we could do as a modern, forward-thinking democracy is to just do away with it. Give them some kind of ceremonial role, if you like, but not anymore as the head of state. I think it makes us the laughing stock
You can't,
of most of the
you
world.
can't have a ceremonial royal family because they're not a royal family. They're not. They've got to be head of state.
Well, that's
and
what
head...
they do in a lot of countries. They do that in Holland, where they all
they
kind of
don't rate.
cycle about. They do it in Denmark.
They do it in Sweden, but they don't rate. They just don't rate, Mike. Right, give